Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 427. This is an update.
Yeah, that's right. Update episode 427 episodes in, and we made it through the giving of thanks. We are past Thanksgiving. We are past Black Friday, and we're moving into the other exciting holiday season. We're really finishing up here the kind of clutch moments of Q4 over the next couple of weeks. So that'll be really exciting. But we had a previous episode where we talked about, Black Friday and what our anticipations were. And so this is our first episode afterwards. So as we're giving our updates, we'll probably be talking a little bit about Black Friday and along with just our sales, how things are going, what's new in the reselling world with our reselling topics. And then we, of course, with our update episodes, we give those spicy bolos.
That's right, the bolos. So how are things going, Mike? How's things for you?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, I would say, I've been watching our Discord and other people, and it seemed like there was definitely an uptick for a lot of people for sales. I didn't see like a huge uptick in sales, but I am going to take a lot of that blame for myself. As I've been moving into like holiday season and family stuff, and I've had a ton of house projects, my eBay store has kind of been like just on the back burner. I've been listing, sporadically, not as much as I could be. And a big part of it is maybe procrastination. But I mentioned in a previous episode that I've really got that goal to have my house paid off in 5 years. But for whatever reason, and I know there's nothing magical about January 1st and the start of a year, but in my mind, it's like, okay, January 1st, I'm starting this 5 year as of January 1st. It's a little easier to track than, hey, I'm starting on November 27th or something like that. So I probably should have actually got into it hardcore, but my goal is to really just go pedal to the metal, all out on eBay and really just increase not only the amount that I'm sourcing, but the consistency of my listing, and then hopefully see that uptick that everybody else saw. But I mean, I've been having consistent sales, which is nice. Still selling those bread and butter items, random items that are kind of exciting to see leave my shelves. But I haven't really gotten through my entire death pile like I'd like to. But it's been going pretty good. One thing though that is a bit of a bummer. So if you remember, during the summertime, I talked a lot about the Amazon return store that I had here, Crazy Hot Deals. And I did really, really well there. And the price structure was actually pretty decent. The day one that they opened for the week was Fridays for them. So that's when it's the top dollar day. Everything is the most expensive, but you also have access to the best items. Well, that price was $8. So it was $8, any item on the floor, $8. And if you got there early enough, you got a good chance of getting some pretty decent stuff. And then throughout the week, you could still go as it gets cheaper and cheaper, but you're kind of stuck with the leftovers. Right? It's almost like the store clearances itself out and tries to basically get rid of all of its stuff by the end of the week. And then they start back over on Friday. So they've upped their prices now to $10 as their baseline. And you wouldn't think that $2 would make a huge difference, especially when you're talking about picking up items at $8. It's like, oh, it's just $2 difference. But it really does start to add up, and it makes a big impact on your profitability. Like where before it's like, okay, if I could sell this item and make like $35 on it, all right, that's a pretty good gamble at picking it up for $8. If I could net $35. Well, now that I'm paying $10 an item, if I'm buying 10 items, I'm paying an extra $20. That profit margin now has to go up, which means, instead of selling things for $30 and being pretty happy, I've got to kind of factor in maybe $35, $40 in order to be just as happy, because you're going to get some busts, right? Like you're going to buy an item and realize, oh, this one doesn't work, or this one doesn't have all of its parts. So that $2 difference really, I feel like it's going to make a big impact on my sourcing, right? I mean, think about you, like you negotiate everything, right? Yeah. So if you're at a garage sale, you're going to negotiate. I make fun of you sometimes for negotiating. Somebody says $5 for an item and you're like, how about $3? You'll keep going lower. But it really makes a difference, because I always have felt like you're kind of paying up at these Amazon return stores. You're paying $8 for an item, but only occasionally do you get something where it's like, hey, I could sell this for $300. Most of the time you're finding stuff that's in like I could sell this for $40, I could sell this for $50. So that $2 makes a big difference at that kind of already, slim profit margins. If I was paying $1 per item that I was selling for $30 to $40, hey, that'd be no big deal. But when you're kind of paying up and you're already paying like 20% of your total value fee on it, it really makes a big difference when it goes up a couple bucks. So that was a bit of a bummer.
And everybody has their profit
increase.
margins. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, for some people, like hearing you, they're like, that's crazy. Like $10 is still great if I can sell it for $35, $40. For others, like I myself, like there's a psychological kind of level for me. Like from 8 to 10, 10 is like a no-go for me. Like I feel like I don't feel just paying $10, being that, you know, if it's $35, $40, I'm doing promoted listings or I'm accepting a lower offer, you know, all those different things that come into play. With $8, I'm willing to do it. But if it's an item that sells for $100, like $2 is no big deal. But when it gets into that $30, $40 range, it does get a little sketch for me.
Yeah, and like I said, you're also factoring in you're factoring
Your
in
time.
some items aren't going to sell. Your time, and then some items aren't going to sell, right? Like that's the big deal. Like we've talked about that with profit margins on Amazon, right? Like, yeah, you can, if you're an Amazon seller and you're buying in bulk, but you got really slim profit margins, and all it takes is one person to return an item, and it just totally cuts into your bottom line. I feel like it's the same thing here. It's less of an issue of returns, which that could happen, but more of like, hey, if I buy 10 items, there's a good chance that one, maybe two of those items, by the time I get them home and really examine them, realize, okay, this wasn't worth it. Which, you know, at 10 items, an extra $20, that's a big deal, right? Whereas like 10 items, 2 of them don't work, but I paid $20 less for them. It's like, okay, those are almost free items. I could throw them away, you know? So it does, because at $8, 2 items that's $16, right? So really that is the difference. Like now the 2 items that I could throw away and be like, oh, I lost $16, but that's fine. The rest of the stuff will end up paying and I'll also be really well into the profit. Now it's like those 2 items I can almost throw away for free, I'm having to pay for now. And when I throw them away, it hurts a little bit more. So yeah, that does stink, and I guess that's just what we deal with. Is, you know, inflation has gone up, and you kind of have to expect it. Prices can't stay the same everywhere. I mean, even the Dollar Tree is the $1.25 store now. So, but yeah, so they were open on Thanksgiving, so I didn't realize that, which I wouldn't have gone anyways because I had my mom and brother were in town from Colorado for Thanksgiving. But they were open from 6 p.m. till midnight on Thanksgiving, and they were doing all kinds of like big giveaways and raffles and stuff. And my plan was to go Friday morning at my normal time. My brother was a little late sleeping in, and so I wanted to take my brother. My mom wanted to go. So I didn't get there until like 2 hours after they opened, and it was the biggest disappointment. Like everything that was left was just trash. And part of that is because we were a couple hours late. But the other thing I was considering is I feel like they hyped up their like Black Friday Thanksgiving special so much there at that Crazy Hot Deals, the Amazon return store, that they probably put out almost all of their good stuff on Thursday, right? Like they really wanted it to make it seem like, hey, this is the big deal. So I bet you if I would have gone Thursday when they opened, I probably would have raked in the money. But again, it's that cost benefit analysis. It's a trade-off, right? So you've got to, am I going to trade family time for, you know, maybe making an extra $300, $400, $500? It's not worth it when I got family in from Colorado. So, but lesson learned next year if they do the same thing. Always being there when they open is key. But that Thursday day was probably where it was at, because I bet you by the time Friday hit, they'd already gotten rid of most of their solid stuff.
I'm pretty sure they did, because I remember seeing on TikTok like other stores similar. I don't know if they're a chain, or maybe it was the same one, but they were like doing like $5 iPads, like $5 like crazy stuff. So I figured like if that drew people in, and they had lines around the corner or whatever, like around the store. And my guess is, yeah, people saw other deals and they're like, yeah, we're going to buy this now. And they probably had a good week, right? They probably sold a ton of stuff.
What about you? How are things going?
So I have a good problem. My problem is I haven't had enough time to ship everything out. Like today on the podcast, you know, I had these big plans. I had 19 items that sold from this morning till like before the podcast, and I was like, I'm gonna get home, I'm gonna pack them, and sure enough, like I get in the middle of packing, and that's probably the problem with shipping items that aren't clothing. Like I'm selling a lot of collectibles, right? So it's not like I just pick up a bunch of poly mailers, get the shirts, and then just pack them and ship them. Like I got a plush over here, and then I got a train over here, and then I have, you know, a basketball card over here, and I have a bobblehead over here. Like I have all these different things. So it does take some time, and I'm okay. I'm not complaining about it. I'm happy about it. I got to tell you, I feel like my eBay store is back to normal. And I would say maybe even better than normal, or maybe I just feel that because I haven't had this euphoria in a long time. It's been averaging about 20 sales a day for me, which is compared to where we were like 3-4 months ago, where I have some days where it was only 3 to 5, and I'm like, how am I going to pay the bills? It's been zooming. Now, the other thing to it, I haven't had like a ton of high dollar sales. I did have that bobblehead and for $470. I did sell a pair of lamps for $200 the other day. I sold some jackets for $100. But a lot of them have been just toys, somewhere between the $20 to $50 range, and it's been a few of them, and it's been great. It's been great. I'm still doing that ending sell similar for 200 items a day, and I've already recycled them, right? So I was worried that if you have 3,000 items, you can only do that about 15 times. I think, if I got my math right. Maybe I got my math right. Okay, and now I've done that longer than that, and it's still working. Like, and I don't know what it is. It could be Q4. It could be people's confidence in the economy. It could be, I don't know what it is, but it's working. And so I'm happy about that. I want to keep it moving. The other thing is, I'm going to be moving here in a few months, and I'm trying to reduce my inventory. So I went from having about 3,100 and something, I was about 3,300 back in March, and now I'm down to like 2,600. So I'm down 700 plus on top of the new stuff I've been listing. And I haven't sourced in a, I don't know how long it's been. It's been probably at least a month and a half that I haven't sourced. I've just been listing what I have, and I'm still not able to keep the store above 3,000. I'm at like 2,600 something. So my goal is, by the time I do move in a few months here, I want to have under 2,000 items. I think that would be ideal. It'd be great. I've talked about this before. I want to have a store that has no more than 1,000 items constantly. And not because I'm not sourcing, but because I'm selling so much that, I can't keep it above 1,000. I think that would be ideal. I think the days of listing and forget it and having a big store are still around for some, depending on what you sell. But I know for me, that kind of went away. I think that era is done, especially because of eBay's pushing and promoted listings, eBay's, discussing that items over 90 days are still store, and they'll weigh you down, all those different factors. I'm kind of in the place of, I think probably some of what was weighing down my stores was I had just a bunch of inventory that needed to get moved. So it's been great. It's been great. One thing I don't talk enough about is how I am so resilient about donating. A lot of resellers, they find stuff and they're like, I'm going to donate this. And I don't. I usually see something and I go, I could do some kind of lot. I could combine it with something. Give you an example. I bought a bunch of hockey stuff from somebody for $60. I had mentioned this on podcast before. And part of it, they had 40 random hockey pucks that were used. They had 50 inline roller skate wheels. Just a bunch of random. So I lauded some of that stuff, and that stuff has sold for good money too, right? Where I almost felt I should have donated, but I ended up not donating it, and I'm glad. I'm glad because it ended in more profitability for me. So that's been good. At the same time, I do miss sourcing at this moment in time. I can't. There's something about me that can't do it right now, because I'm realizing how much I do not have listed. And at first I was giving numbers like 200, 300, 400, 500. There is a strong possibility that I may have 1,000 items that I have not listed, which sounds terrible, sounds crazy. But I haven't even touched the podcast room. Like, I've just been listing stuff that has been in the eBay room. I have right now probably 50 to 60 homeschool items that I haven't even listed. I have I'm looking at them right now, probably 30 posters that are vintage that I haven't listed. It's just, you don't realize until you stop sourcing for a long time and you continually look for items that you need to list from your death piles, you do not realize what you've created, at least for me. And I'm a little ashamed. I think I went on a buying spree and was not listing consistently. Part of it was I wasn't seeing the sales, so I kind of got fed up, and I'm like, forget this. I'm not gonna list. Like, if eBay's not gonna reward me, I'm not gonna reward eBay or whatever it is. And now that things are happening, I'm looking at stuff, and I'm like, why is this not listed? Why is this not listed? Why is this not listed? And it's been crazy. And I know it doesn't make for great content. I know, a lot of the great content is, hey, I was at a garage sale and I found this room and I found all this stuff. But I just got to keep it real. And I'm speaking to a lot of resellers I know out there. I guarantee for a lot of you, if you stopped for a week or two or a month and not sourced and just ended up listing what you already have, you may find that you have a lot more than you expected.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's if you listed 25 items a day, which is it's a hefty number. If you're listing 25 items a day just from your death pile, and you didn't do any other sourcing and listing like new stuff, it'd take you 40 days, right? Like, you've got over a month, nearly a month and a half of inventory at 25 items a day if you're not doing any other sourcing and listing new stuff. If you're adding to that death pile by continuing to source, I mean, geez.
Yeah, and to be fair, I haven't listed every day. I've just been doing the end sale similar to. But still, like, you would think at this rate, by now, I'd be like, oh, man, I need to get out there and find inventory. But that is what I created. and again, the best part of reselling is the buying. No one will ever say, I love listing. No one will ever say, I love packing. Yes, is there something, therapeutic about packing items? There is. There's times I find myself going, I really enjoyed packing that item. And there's times, I enjoy kicking back on the couch, putting on a movie and listening. There are those moments. But right now, I'm looking around as we talk, and I go, that's crazy. Like, I have a Cricut printer right here that I know I sourced maybe 7 months ago. That's worth $150 that I sold for $10. It's just sitting there.
Yeah, we did have somebody in our Discord mention that their favorite part was the packing. I almost feel like we need to make a reselling group where it's like made up in squads, and each squad has like a sourcer, a packer, a lister. I mean, if you had that, I mean, I don't know what else you would need in that group. If you had all three, like you had those three members in a group, that's their passion. They love doing that, man. That would make a team. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's almost like when you're playing World of Warcraft and like you need a healer and you need a tank and you need someone doing area damage, and then you almost need somebody like you need a reselling squad like that. That's my new thing. But see, everybody would want to be sourcers.
Yeah, it's true. But that's the thing. I could source all day. And I was talking to somebody the other day where they're encouraging me. They're like, Orlando, you're good at sourcing, but you hate listing and you hate packing. Why don't you just hire people to pack the stuff? Why don't you just hire people to list? Why don't you just source all day? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I could, right? But I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to get out there eventually. I'm not done recently. If you question whether I am, it's easy to find my store. You can see all the sales there. I always want to keep it real, but it's hard. It's hard coming to the podcast saying, hey, I have not sourced in a while, but it hasn't affected me. Instead, my sales continue on the upswing. So, and that's a good formula, right? That's a good problem I have, I would say, that I can still source. I even sold a fingerling the other day, which was crazy to me. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Hey, before we move on, I do want to talk about bookkeeping software that will keep you sane. So if you're looking for something, that you can track your profit loss, you're looking for something to import your eBay sales to help you with your taxes, check out My Reseller Genie. Made by resellers for resellers. It's been a great tool. I think we started with them back in early 2023. And they've just grown, they've improved. So if you haven't had a chance yet, sign up for My Reseller Genie. Use our code Pure Hustle. You'll get 15% off the first month. You should also maybe type in, I don't know, maybe I can look it up, but there are some other deals out there. But I would say if you want to help out the podcast, you can join via Pure Hustle code and get that first 15% off of the first month. And by the way, what a way to start. You should get it set up now. So in January, you are ready to go with your bookkeeping. Yeah. All right. You have any random stories here?
Yeah, this one kind of goes back to the crazy hot deals that I went to on Friday, on Black Friday. So I didn't do a lot of other Black Friday shopping. There's just so much. I feel like you're just bombarded with stuff on Amazon, and if you got Temu, God help you with all of the emails and the notifications you get for all the sales they have all the time. But Black Friday, I mean, there's just so much. it's really hard. I mean, you can go on websites and find like the best Black Friday deals, but I feel like most of that stuff is, you're looking at TVs, you're looking at robot vacuums, you're looking at like like basically appliances, smart like iPads, stuff like that. But I was hoping that I would do okay at the Black Friday at the crazy hot deals, and I thought I scored something. So I find a box and it had been passed up, and the box looks like brand new. And I saw the brand, I recognized the brand, and I know it's like a bicycle brand. So I'm looking at it and I read the label, and it's the back, the gear set. So, if you're riding like a road bike, and this is a road bike gear set, if you're riding a road bike or even a mountain bike, that the back wheel has multiple gear sizes. And people pay good money for the like high-end brands. They pay good money for certain gear sets because if you mostly live in an area where it's flat, you're gonna have a different gear set than if you live in an area where there's lots of hills. And same thing with the front. The front gear set is also, they're gauged differently. So like I think this one was like a 1022. So there's like however many gears in between, but like the first teeth has 10, the last one has 22, something like that. And people are very specific about the ones they want because depending on the terrain you live in, you want a very specific one. So I looked this one up, this specific model, and they're going for like $250 new. And I'm like, sweet. Even used, they're selling for like $150 to $200 if they're in good condition. So I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna score. Even at $10, I'm gonna kill it on this one. And I was super excited to show my mom and my brother, like, look, this is why I come here. So anyways, I did what you're not supposed to do at this place because you're supposed to go stand in line and get your stuff opened up at the box cutting section. But I was like, I'm just gonna check. So I pulled out my pocket knife. I opened it up real quick, and the person had sent back their old gear set. Like it was all like falling apart. It was like rusted. It was like black grease everywhere. And like two thoughts go through my mind. The first one is I just got robbed. You know what I mean? That I had that momentary high of like, I'm going to make a killing on this to, I lost all my money. I didn't have to spend any, but that feeling anyways. It's like when you find like a box somewhere at a garage sale and it's like, oh, I'm going to make a bunch of money on this. And it's an empty box. And you're like, dang it. That's kind of how I felt. But then the other thing is just realizing like, man, people are messed up. Like that means that this person bought a $250 gear set off Amazon, packaged up their old one and sent it back. And that's the reseller nightmare, right? That happens to you. And occasionally it does happen, but I'm convinced that happens probably at a significantly higher ratio. I don't know the number, but I would bet it's like 90-10 to Amazon as opposed to something like eBay. Because in people's minds, and I've heard so many people say things like this, like it's a big corporation, like it's not going to hurt them. Right. Whereas I don't think people are as bad when it comes to eBay. Now, of course, we've all had that. We've all had it where somebody sends something back and it's been used or it's been beat up or they broke it or they sent back their old one. That does happen. But I think it happens at a much higher ratio or percentage to places like Walmart or Costco or Amazon where people are thinking, hey, they're a big company. They can handle it. But I'm just thinking it's messed up because that was maybe it was the name brand of that sold this piece, and yeah, they're just going to chalk that up to a loss. But maybe it was an FBA reseller, right? That got their hands on a handful of these, and they sold them, and they're making good profit. And here's somebody who sends one back, and they're just like, well, forget it, this is junk. And it just sucks, like seeing that people do that.
Yeah, I don't feel sorry for those people if they they end up getting hit in the head with a baseball or something. Where's the integrity? Like, I understand people usually do what's in their best interest, which means a lot of people are selfish, but it drives me crazy. I've never been scammed like that ever. On eBay, on the Amazon side, all the time. I remember getting sent back VCRs that were wrecked. I did get old stuff sent back to me, so I totally feel that. It's just but we always got to remember it's the cost of doing business too, right? That's kind of, there are people out there, but it's very, very limited. Again, it shouldn't be something that scares people away from reselling because it is few and far between, right? How many times have you shopped there and you found that happen? It's probably very rare.
No, it happens a lot at the Amazon store.
Really?
I just don't think because I think Amazon, when they get stuff back, they kind of know. I think a lot of times they know.
They don't have integrity either?
No. What I'm saying is, they're bundling up all their stuff and selling it at pennies to the dollar to these Amazon return stores. I'm not saying they don't have integrity, but I think that's why some of the stuff ends up there. Like that you're going through a lot of that kind of stuff where it's like people send back their old ones or people send back something that's broken. Like if you buy a nice, I don't know, like shelving unit or something, or you buy some kitchenware, there's a good chance that it's broken, which is why people sent it back, which is why you have to really check things before you buy it there.
Interesting.
So that stuff I feel like happens more often. You're going to run into that more there for sure. But I think it doesn't happen as much on eBay. Of course, we all have the stories. In fact, people should put in the comments below, like, what's been your worst return, that somebody kind of messed you up and sent a broken thing back, or their old shoes or something instead of the one you sold them. I'd like to hear some of those, but of course I think that happens at a much smaller percentage than it does to a big company like Amazon, because people don't have a face to Amazon or even like a name. Like if they buy something from Amazon, even if it's coming from a third party, in their mind it's just Amazon. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. Who cares if they lose money on this one item?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a part of me that has an issue with Amazon doing that, but whatever. I mean, Amazon's shady in many different ways. So
no, but what are you saying? What I'm not sure what you're saying. Amazon is doing,
because Amazon, like, I think with these bundles, they inspect this, right? If these are Amazon returns, they inspect it and they know, right?
Yeah,
at some point.
But the thing is, they don't have the time and energy. There's no way they're going like this. This store is probably buying like hundreds and hundreds of pallets every week. There's no way that like Amazon is spending the time going through. Like a lot of times we've had some returns on issues where like Amazon has said just keep it. So what they do is they're getting stuff. I mean, you've even had it as an Amazon seller where stuff comes back and you decide whether or not to have it paid to be shipped back to you, or if you're just like, no, keep it, right? So when they end up with all of that stuff, they just are like, we're going to fill up a box. It could be great stuff. It could be junk stuff. And people are spending, I mean, who knows? These places, like I said, are paying pennies on the dollar, and then they're selling it to us at an increase. So everybody's making money, but Amazon is basically saying, here's our junk. We don't have time to go through it. Some of it's gold, some of it's junk. I mean, I don't think Amazon's being shady by sending their returns to these places. They just don't have time to process all of them like that.
I guess, even though they have automated robots and AI. So, all right. Hey, I don't have random stories. I don't know. To me, it's just, I don't know what it is, but I continue to get messages on the daily about my prices are too high. Like people are like mad, like angry. And maybe I'm inviting it by talking about it on the podcast. I don't know, but it is crazy to me. Like, I just don't understand. Like, here's the thing. If my prices are too high on certain items, that's only hurting me. It's not hurting other resellers, because that means that your prices are more competitive. And so therefore, what's the bother? Like, who am I bothering by having high prices? And the funny thing is, when people do this, like, I don't think they understand that, like, in the end, like, it's you spent that time to send me a message. I got this other one that says, this is not 1996. This is like some Thomas the Train. Like, seriously, this is a item that it isn't worth it to me. It belongs in the trash, not on eBay for $31.99. You are clueless. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to respond to you? Do you want me to tell you, like, hey, I sell at this price all the time? Do you want me to tell you, like, you do your research? Like, I don't understand. My big belief is that a lot of people that sell on eBay aren't social people, and that's why they sell on eBay, and so they feel comfortable just spouting off to individuals. So let me know in the comments. Do you feel that people having higher prices on items hurts sales for other individuals? Because I would think that would work to your advantage, right? All the time, And I get messages sometimes where people are like, hey, I saw your item, but I saw somebody else had it cheaper, brand new. And I'm like, hey, thanks for letting me know. Go buy it from them. Like, there's no, why are you telling me? Like, if you found a better deal, go after the better deal, because this is my price at. So I don't know. I will tell people, like, always, you do your own research. And if in your own research you find that your price is something that you can sell it at, don't worry about what other people think, right? Especially now, if things are slow and you're never selling that item, then maybe you need to reconsider. But for me, I haven't had the issue, so I'm not really sure why people feel the need to discuss that. All right. That's all I got for random stories. You ready to talk about some some reseller topics here?
That's right. Let me get that queued up here. Canadian postal strike Amazon mass gating, the biggest Black Friday e-commerce yet, and thrifting continues in popularity. All this and more on Reseller Topics. Rolando, take it away.
Okay, so it's interesting because I did not know how severe the strike was in Canada, but I guess there's a major strike that's been happening since early, I want to say mid-November. So this is from the Inquirer. They said last week the U.S. Postal Service announced it was temporarily suspending international mail acceptance to Canada because of the strike. Now, I personally found this out because I had somebody that bought a baseball mitt from me the other day, and they said, hey, can you hold on until mid-December to ship this out to me because there's a strike going on and I'm not going to be able to get the item. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. So then I went and I Googled it and it said, sure enough, there it is. A Canadian Postal Service strike during one of the biggest shopping weeks of the year is causing shipping snags for Canadians and Canada-based companies, as well impacting Americans sending mail to Canada. Last week, the USPS announced it was temporarily suspending international mail acceptance to Canada because of the labor strike. And so who's on strike? It's Canada Post, Canada's national mail carrier, which is unionized. They've been on strike since November 15 based on some negotiation issues. And so how's it? It's actually impacting Canadians. So if you're Canadian and you're listening to our podcast, let us know in the comments. How is this affecting you? Here it's saying that right now it's costing small businesses like eBay sellers $70.6 million per day since the strike began. If the strike isn't resolved by Wednesday, so this was put out today, this news story. If it's not resolved by Wednesday, the group estimated it will cost the businesses more than $1 billion. Ooh. Like, you know, and this makes me think of like black swan scenarios and reselling, right? We've talked about that. Like, what do you do if you can't sell your stuff? Like, what is available to you, right? And, you know, I remember some people were like, nah, it's crazy. That will never happen. But here you have one, right? If you sell primarily on eBay and you're in Canada, or even, you know, if you're in Canada, and not only eBay, Mercari, Poshmark, wherever you sell, you're going to have to look maybe for different carriers, but chances are that that's not available to you or it's too expensive, and so you're kind of stuck. So I always warn people, like, make sure you have a contingency plan, make sure maybe you have money saved up, maybe you have another way to sell items, but this is a big deal. So hopefully this gets resolved because it's affecting American sellers. I wonder how many items I could have sold to Canada, because I do sell a lot of Canada, and I've only had one item probably, I don't know, in the last 3 weeks that has gone to Canada. So be aware of that. All right. Do you guys want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think you nailed it, especially that idea of like, it's kind of a black swan thing. I mean, that could impact, I mean, just devastate a store and a business. And the hard part is, you know,
especially during Q4.
Yeah. And not knowing the whole situation. I mean, the reasons for the strike and how those individual workers' lives are you know, are important and their rights and all of that. But just to think too of the ripple effect, right? Like when we talk about, you know, the economy having like almost being like a chain, right? And all it takes is one link in that chain being messed up, and it has ripple effects that can impact everything. And I think, you know, 2020 really showed us that with, you know, it's like, why is something that happened, you know, months and months and months ago affecting car prices for years? It's like, oh, well, those car prices or those cars, they need a certain chip. That chip comes from China. The shipping was delayed, and it ripples, and it can have long lasting. It's almost like the butterfly effect, right? Remember that movie? Kind of a weird one, but you know, like one weird thing happening can have impacts like years down the road, and you could trace it back to like, oh, that had that. And so, yeah, how many businesses, not just resellers, are going to be impacted by that? And again, not getting into whether or not the strike is good or bad or any of that, but just recognizing that all it takes, it could be that, or it could be any number of other things, like one break in the chain, and you know, it's a very fragile system.
And so, yeah, just be aware. I mean, in the U.S., luckily, you know, we have other options available to us, but you never know. You never know. So it's funny. It's like all these reseller topics at the front here are kind of like bad news. But this next one is Amazon. I don't know what happened, but this is more. There isn't any news stories. It's all on the Twitter sphere. A lot of people have been mass gated in the last 2 weeks on Amazon, especially clothing and shoe sellers. Some of the brands were Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, Puma. And then if you sell like Oral-B toothbrushes, or you sell Listerine, or you sell other items, Crest, trying to see here, Phillips, like just people that had been selling this for like a long time, just gated. Some people that have thousands of dollars of inventory in warehouses just being gated, and then being asked for invoices, or just told, hey, you have 48 hours to sell through your inventory. You'll no longer be allowed to sell this, which is kind of wild to me. Again, it's a reminder to me that there's no sure thing in reselling. And I would say on Amazon, like Amazon is amazing. Amazon is, I think, one of the quickest ways to scale in reselling. But I would say it is also one of the ones you need to be more cautious of, because I know some sellers that were like $1 million sellers, and then they just got gated. And then that $1 million ended up turning into, several thousand, and then they had to find other items to sell, or they had to go private label, or they had to, sell all the remaining inventory on eBay. But even eBay is having issues. We talked about this on the live previously, where, like, for example, I've seen some posts like Puma. Like, even if you sell Puma on eBay, they're getting zeroed. So you're getting gated on Amazon, and you're getting zeroed on eBay. And I think this zeroing is going to happen even more and more on eBay. With new items, right? It's kind of that consumer act that was passed last year. It's part of the issues, right? Is that I don't think there was enough lobbying done by eBay and Amazon and other groups, or maybe they don't care. I don't know, to get Congress on board to protect small businesses, with the ability to be able to sell things based on the first purchase. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, but first sale doctrine. Yeah. So the first sale doctrine. Yeah. The first sale doctrine essentially says, and we talk about this a little bit on our live episode, but essentially the first sale doctrine is saying, once a person legally purchases a copyrighted material, they then can sell that copyrighted material, dispose of that copyrighted material, transfer that copyrighted material without regard to the original copyright owner, right? So like if I buy a DVD, I buy a movie, when I originally buy that, like a percentage of that goes to the company, right? Whoever owned that copyright, all of that money goes to them. Once I own that, now I own it, and I can then throw it away. I don't have to contact the person who owns the copyright to that. I can transfer it. I could say, hey, Orlando, you should watch this movie. I got an extra copy. Here you go. Or I could sell it, right? And I don't have to contact the copyright owner of that. I can't make like copies. I can't make forgeries, right? Those are not part of the first sale doctrine. But part of the first sale doctrine allows you, and it should apply to other things too, right? It should apply to things like shoes. I buy a pair of shoes. I now own these shoes. I can now throw them away. I could transfer them to somebody else, or I could sell them without having to get permission from Nike or Reebok or whoever to do those things. So, and of course, there's other aspects of that, positives potentially to protecting a brand, and we talk about those in our live minisode, so make sure to check that out. But yeah, the first sale doctrine, I feel like a lot of times, especially somewhat with gating on Amazon, I mean, it's Amazon's platform, so I kind of can get it a little bit more, but things like eBay and the Veros, man, they really push the boundaries on that first sale doctrine for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm not sure why eBay is not combating it more. Right. So I request eBay Main Street to let us know what else they're doing. All right. Hey, Black Friday, though. Speaking of Black Friday, incredible for e-commerce. It's kind of interesting. This comes from SGB Media based on Adobe Analytics and Salesforce. They're kind of like the people that track these sales over Black Friday. Said Black Friday brick and mortar sales on the other reported suffered from an 8.2% decline in store visits on Black Friday, according to Sensormatic Solutions. The company said traffic for the week of Thanksgiving from November 24 to 29 was down 3.9%, and traffic for the full year today is down 3%. Now, when it came to e-commerce, though, Adobe Analytics reported that U.S. e-commerce sales on Black Friday amounted to $10.8 billion, or up 10.2% year over year. Adobe Analytics said it was the biggest Black Friday for e-commerce since it began tracking online sales. Now, I will say, some say, well, that's only referring to like new items, and I get that. Like, I bought all kinds of stuff on Amazon. There were some great deals out there on Amazon. But at the same time, it's kind of one of those things where, like, all ships rise at the same time, right? If people are online, they're looking on eBay, they're looking for that deal. And so payments, and they said Payments Intelligence said that online channels overshadow others. Just 28% of Black Friday shoppers bought entirely in store, meaning 72% of consumers made at least some e-commerce purchase. And I would say not only the deal, but I myself, I don't like going into stores anymore. Like if I can avoid the stores, like I haven't walked into a Target in I don't know how long. I can't stand going into Walmart. I can't stand, even my own clothing. Like if I need like a suit or I need, some kind of slacks or something, I'll just order on Amazon, right? And Amazon has try that feature first. So I think this is more of a testimony that, hey, online selling is only going to get big. And I would make the argument that even on eBay, it's growing in the sense that, yes, obviously the GMV numbers, right? Gross merchandise value, how much eBay is selling, right, in a year has not gone up. But I would make the argument that despite that having going up, if you sell items that people are looking for a discount that maybe, they could find it new on Amazon, but they can get it to you and they can get it for cheaper and you can ship it on good time, you're going to have that business, right? That's one of the reasons I buy stuff on Amazon than eBay. Because, for example, I just bought a tie on eBay. I ordered that tie on Monday. And it just got to me a week later, right? If I ordered a tie on Amazon, that same tie, and paid another extra $10, I would have had it in 2 days, maybe overnight, right? Depending. Some places you can get it like the day of, right? So it's my encouragement. If you sell on eBay, make sure you have fast shipping because especially if you have items that are something that people could find on Amazon, because in the end, they're going to want to go to eBay for the deal, but not if your shipping times are too long. Like I get very impatient. I hate waiting.
Yeah, I mean the shipping thing is obviously crucial. We've talked about that, how it's a benefit to us as buyers with Amazon doing the free shipping, doing the fast shipping. But then again, it changes the expectations of all buyers, and so then it kind of forces our hand to match suit on that. However, I also think that a lot of people that I've talked to, and including myself, like just recently before my family came in for Thanksgiving, we were going to do an early Christmas. So I wasn't sure if my brother was going to come. I found out he was coming. So I bought a few things to be delivered like next day because he was going to be coming the following day. And I had the couple days before, same thing. I tried to order things that were going to be delivered same day, and 3 separate orders that were supposed to be either same day or next day delivery from Amazon were significantly late. Like one of them was 2 days late, one of them was a day late, and the other one completely got lost, and they just after 4 days just refunded the order and I had to rebuy stuff. So I think that people are recognizing that even with those, and maybe it's location dependent, but I almost feel like they're overplaying their hand. Like they're not quite ready for what they're trying to implement. And so people are getting frustrated. They're like, yeah, I can order same day or next day, and I've got a 50% chance that it's going to come. I might as well wait 3 days for it to come from eBay and get a better price. So not that that's guaranteed to be a benefit in our favor, but I'm not sure if like next day delivery and same day delivery from Amazon is really all that it's cracked up to be. I think that they're promising a lot right now, and maybe it's just me. Maybe I've had a couple of bad experiences and everybody else has experienced it perfectly. But I think that if this continues down this road, and maybe let us know in the comments if you've had similar experience, it could end up easing some of the pressure for us resellers to say like, hey, I'm still shipping pretty fast. Like it's not next day delivery unless you pay a whole bunch of money. But let's be honest, even Amazon struggles with next day delivery.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. I've had to cancel some. I have a business trip, and I had ordered something that was supposed to get here the next day, and it never showed up. And then I checked on Amazon. It's like arriving in 3 days. And I'm like, I'm not even here in 3 days. And so I had to cancel it. And then I had to get it shipped to my location. Now, I will say one thing on Amazon, just a tip. This is not a reselling tip. But if things are taking too long to get to you, like it's saying it's going to be 2 days, check to see if it can get dropped off in a locker. Because if it gets dropped off a nearby locker, sometimes you can get it same day or like the next day. I've had that experience multiple times. So just check that out. All right, hey, I'm gonna move on to our last story here, just because I thought it was interesting. So on TikTok, there's these storage hunters. His name is Prieto Hunters, Prieto Hunters, and they're on YouTube too. And he's always finding awesome things, right? And maybe we'll have him on the podcast sometime. and he came across a locker, and I don't know how he found this, but I think he paid like $120 for this locker. And in this locker, he goes in and he opens it up and he finds some Louis Vuitton stuff, brand new with tags, some Jacquez stuff. I think that's what you call it. New with tags, Givenchy, new with tags, like all in the suitcase, like super designer, like multiple thousands of dollars on these items. And then he opens up another suitcase and he opens it up and it's a Grammy. And the Grammy is from this rapper named Roddy Ricch and something he did with Nipsey Hussle a few years ago. And, it goes viral on TikTok, right? It got several thousand likes and so on. And so he's super excited. He's trying to figure out what to do. And, you think this story would turn out great. But what ends up happening is I see the comments. Everybody's like, you better return it to him. You get it's not yours. You get to give back and all this stuff. And I'm like, here we go. Like, first sale doctrine, like, hey, somebody left it in that locker. Now, could it have been something shady where somebody maybe at an airport stole some luggage and they stored it in the storage unit? Could have been that. Could it be something where, I don't know, maybe, this person's management team stored his stuff in a locker and forgot to pay for it? Don't know. But the reality is it was in that locker. It expired. He has the ownership to it. And so I think he thought that this was going to be like, really awesome. He was going to meet like the rapper and so on. And, I think that's what he wanted. Initially, I think he was hoping to reach out to the team and have this great, homecoming of the Grammy. What ended up happening, I feel really terrible for him, is he ended up getting doxxed. He ended up getting threats. He ended up like people posting his house, where he lives, his social security number, all this stuff. And eventually he was like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to mess with it. I'm meeting up with the team of this performer at the police station, and I just want to hand it over. I want nothing to do with it. And he shows up at the police station. Some random guy, I don't know if he got scammed. I don't know who these people are. Some random people show up, and they're like, hey, you want some cash for this? And he was like, I don't want anything. You just take it. And he gave it to him, and they took it. And I was like, wow, this is a lesson for a lot of resellers, especially new ones. You got to be careful what you post on social media. You just got to, right? I'm not just talking about things that are like, maybe it's a hot item on Amazon that if you post it, like it's going to tank your sales. I'm just talking that sometimes like you may get a deal that's really good. And depending on the popularity, depending on who's watching, like that could put you in a lot of trouble. You could get a lot of people just hating on you.
Yeah. Or even like I always think of like, what if you found like a dinosaur bone, right? Well, you could just sell it and make the money, or you could like make a big deal about it, and next thing you know, like the government has come in and said like, oh, now your property is like you have no dig rights here, and we're gonna take it over, and blah blah blah. This is now
garnish your wages, take your house, serve warrants.
You never know. So it's like you kind of got to be careful with that stuff. So it's an interesting story for sure.
I felt really bad for this young guy. It's one of those things where he probably had these big visions of like meeting the rapper and having an opportunity to go viral on YouTube, and then getting doxxed, I would say, is worse than losing the money. Like I'd rather not make the money and not get doxxed, right? But now he got both. He didn't make any money, and it kind of put himself at risk because. Who knows?
Yeah, people are called fans for a reason, right? Like you get some fanatic who thinks that they're going to go get justice or something, even though they're misguided on it. And yeah, you're putting your information out there for some of the most wild people.
Yeah, so be careful what you share on social media. You may get a really good score and somebody might feel really jealous, or somebody may contact that person and try to ruin your deal, which has happened to people before, I've heard, where they shared that they were going to go to some location on social media, and then somehow people found that individual on social media and told them, hey, by the way, and next thing you know, like their deal was broken, right? I do that too. I always ask people when I'm out there sourcing and it's a good deal, I'm like, hey, can I put this on social media? Are you okay with this? Right? And I get that on video because then it kind of protects you. I know Craigslist Center does this all the time when he has those major deals. He asks people, hey, are you okay if we put this on camera? And I'm sure there's a lot of deals that we don't see. All right, let's get into some bolos here. Bolo. What's your bolo?
Yeah. All right. So I got a simple bolo, and it kind of goes back to my random story with that bike gear set. So the brand is SRAM, SRAM, and that's a popular bike brand. And I've found multiple things from SRAM over the years, whether it's like a full bike that I've purchased and then parted out, or just bike parts, right? And you can really look at anything: the cassette, the gear sets in the back, like I said, the crankshafts in the front, shifters. A lot of times people buy parts because they're trying to, it's like cars, right? Like a lot of times people buy car parts because they're going to work on a car and fix up a car, and they don't always do it. It's the same thing with bikes. And going into a new year here, coming up here pretty soon, cycling is one of those things, whether it's mountain biking or road cycling, is one of those things that people really get into at the start of a year. They're looking at trying to be better for their health, and so they start buying stuff or fixing up their old bikes. And so if you can get a hold of any of these, this might be something worth putting on like a Facebook marketplace, notification if anybody posts some of their parts. And even used, these can do well if they're good parts. So a lot of times people will upgrade their bike. They might have bought a really nice bike and then they wanted a slightly different gear set or cassette in the back, or a different crankshaft. People upgrade their bikes all the time. So if you get a slightly used one, they still sell well online. So the brand is SRAM, but there's many other popular cycling and mountain bike brands that will do really, really well. Heck, we've even sold seats, right? Like bike parts can do really, really well.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I'm going to talk about parts too. And I'm going to be pretty general on it. But if there's any kind of like Christmas kind of decoration that's multi-part, right? And so, for example, holiday trains, right? Or Christmas bells, or, even if you have blow molds, right? Like the big, like nativity sets, or even nativity sets, right? The ones that go on the mantle, like any of those, parting those out is probably easier than trying to sell those as a whole. Because, you got the sheep that, the 2-year-old toddler one day got it and tossed it across the room and shattered it. And now it's Christmas. And they're like, hey, like we need the sheep, or we need Mary, or we need baby Jesus on the nativity again, right? Or, you have a train and one of the pieces broke on one of the cars on the train. Or you lost a remote, right? You have... there's a certain remote that you need for, let's say, a musical item, Mr. Christmas item. Like those things can go for good money, because some people would rather pay the money to just replace it than have to fork out to get a whole brand new item. And so lately I've been selling a lot of replacement car parts. Replacement train parts. I've been selling a lot of replacement remotes. I've been selling a lot of replacement, figurines for nativity sets or Christmas sets or whatever it may be. Just be aware, like there is money to be made on those. You do have to wait a little bit. I would say year round, I do sell those items, but I would say the peak time for me usually is October, November, just as people are trying to make sure they're ready. But I've even had those items sell in the summer as people are preparing the summer for Christmas, or at least thinking ahead of like, hey, what do I need to make this right? So that is my bolo. Nice. All right, Mike. Before we move on, though, hey, if you have not yet signed up for our Patreon, we ask that you do so, in the sense that it allows us to continue sharing our content for free. Mike and I have been doing this free for, 6+ years, right? Since 2018 till now. It's going to be 7 years coming up here in 2025. And one of the reasons is because of all the people that support us on Patreon. And part of joining us on Patreon is it gives you an opportunity to join our Discord. And, we're going to be doing more of we had that live episode last week where we asked people, hey, if you're on the Discord and you want to jump on a live with us, that'd be great. You can join us. And so if you haven't yet, sign up, $5.55 a month. It's patreon.com/PureHustlePodcast, or just go to the link below and you can sign up for our Patreon. You can find us on social media, Pure Hustle Podcast, on all platforms, except we are Pure Hustle Cast on X. As always, you can shoot us an email at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. That's purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. You could Google voice us. I got to retrieve it a little bit. There's been some issues. 619-738-1170. That's 619-738-1170. And as always, grateful for all the iTunes reviews that people leave. If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't left a review, please do so. Go over, give us a 5 stars. Tell people why you love this podcast. It helps us in the algorithm. It helps expand our reach to share the podcast with more people. And as always, thankful for all of you that listen to us on you could listen to us or watch us on YouTube. If you haven't yet, make sure to come over, subscribe, hit that like button. smash that bell notification so you know when we're going live, when we're dropping a video. So now, Mike, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to finishing up the kind of Christmas rush as far as Q4 goes. I mean, I know nobody wants it to end. I mean, ideally, Q4 sales just keep going all year, and then it just could be called Q4 year round. But at the same time, I really, really enjoy Christmas time. Like, it's one of my favorite times of the year, and I love all the family time. So I do get excited as it gets closer to Christmas. Those sales kind of die off, and then that week of Christmas are not quite as intense, at least for me. So I don't have to do as much packing, spend a little bit more family time, and then that gives me that break that I need to the start of the year to really go in with like, okay, I had a couple weeks where things were a little bit slower. Now I can go full pedal to the metal. So I'm actually looking forward to a little bit of an ease. Even our podcast, there's time around the holidays where we do like a couple of shorter episodes. And this week we're going to actually have to talk about how we want to do it because Wednesday is Christmas and New Year's, right? So we'll probably maybe do something a little bit shorter on Mondays or something as our episodes for the week and just post those up on the podcast. But we like to do, something a little bit shorter so that our listeners still have something, but it kind of frees up a little bit of time for us and you to just enjoy that holiday season. So I'm looking forward to that. What about you, Orlando?
I got to tell you, there's a lot going on right now. I'm looking forward to... I do want to get out in stores, but I'm kind of like excited about how long can I keep listing stuff that I have until I have no more, right? Will that ever happen? I don't know. Because right now I'm looking, and if you went into in the podcast room, Mike, it doesn't look any different than when you left for Texas. Like, I think it may be even worse because there's so much inventory here. You can't see it right now, but if you got us on the Discord last week, so I'm looking forward to just continuing to list. I'm looking forward to the Q4 sales. I get excited when you keep hearing the cha-chings throughout the day. I'm looking forward to it. I also have some Amazon stuff that I'm selling that I had for 2 years. It was a bad buy. It's finally selling. I'm selling at a loss, but I'm just happy to get that stuff out of here, right? It's kind of taking up half of a room somewhere here, and I think I've sold most of it. I think I maybe have like 4 or 5, so I'm just glad. Sometimes you just got to move stuff, right? Move stuff. It'll keep you motivated to get back that real estate. And then, I'm just looking forward to this continuing. Like, I don't know. I get the sense that, right now, I know there was like these projections by eBay that this was going to be a softer Q4, that, the projections aren't going to be what they intended it to be. But right now, because of what happened on Black Friday and because of, what I've been seeing in my own sales, I don't anticipate that. I anticipate we're going to keep going strong through Q4. I anticipate there's going to be a very strong January, February, because those are also good months for eBay sellers. And so be encouraged. Be encouraged. If you still have items you got to list, keep listing them. If you're kind of like, hey, I think it's only going to be for a little bit, I would say you never know, right? You never know. That's the thing about reselling. Like, you can go 1 or 2 days and it's like super, quiet and only a handful of sales. And the next day you may get like 10 to 15 sales out of nowhere, or you may get that one big sale. You have that one item, especially that happens in Q4 for me all the time, where I have an item that, like that bobblehead, right? That bobblehead is, $400 to $500, did not move, didn't get an offer, got nothing. And I don't know where somebody bought it during Q4. And not only that, I didn't mention this. I had another one where the face, it looked like somebody sat on the helmet's face and it like cracked in half. And I sold that one for $55, right? Even though it was broken. So I'm telling you, keep going this Q4. Keep shipping as fast as you can. Keep listing. Make things happen. Because I got to tell you, there's a lot of money to be made, especially in these next 2 weeks of December, as this is peak selling time on eBay, Amazon, and all the platforms. Hey, everyone, thank you for joining us. If you haven't yet, come on over and hit that subscribe, smash that like button. Make sure to leave an iTunes review. And with that being said, continue working hard and be real.
Be relevant.
And be reselling. Peace.
Podcast guides our quest, learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name, reselling dreams, winning the game.